You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_Beeble and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today, in this little short episode, no idea how long it's going to go for at this point, I'm going to be looking at guys on the waiver wire who could be of use to your leagues. For 10-team leagues, for 12-team leagues, for 14-team leagues, 16, 18, 20-team leagues. Just going through the different stages of which players might be available that should be added, as well as some short-term adds based on injuries. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. So if we start off here, there are a bunch of guys, and it is hard to have a full understanding, and there is no solid data on this sort of stuff to try and figure out which players are likely available in which league size. I did a few calculations to try and find out some things. But these guys here that I'm listing on this first page, if you're watching the video, you can see that list of guys. These are players who, in, I would say, the majority of 10-team formats, and that's where I get to most of these, the majority of these leagues, or very close to the majority, these players are available where they really shouldn't be. Now, whether that's on your team or whether that's on another team in the league, these are guys that shouldn't be on the waivers. Now, you can look at a regular squad. Say we're looking at a 10-team league. You've got 10 active spots, 3 bench spots. Top 100 players are all active players through the league, 10 times 10, and then your back 30 are 3 per team times 10 teams. The back 30 players, they're relatively interchangeable in streaming. So when I say someone is a must-roster guy, they are generally guys who should be close to top 100 players, meaning they would be in nearly everybody's best 10 players. Those back-end ones, that becomes really important more for streaming, for injury replacements, for punt specialists, those type of guys. And you could have anyone ranked from 101 through to 160, 170 in general overall rankings, depending on how that fits your team. But if they're a top 100 guy, they probably should be rostered everywhere. So that's the guys I'm looking at here who, to me, appear to be available for 10-team formats. Let's start with Cody Zeller of the Charlotte Hornets. Zeller has been a real surprise, to be sure, so far this season.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
He's always been a really strong winning player, but this year he's turning it into fantasy numbers as well, which is something he has struggled in the past. He's averaging 14 and 12, shooting 53%. He's also hitting threes at 33% also, and Zeller should be rostered in all leagues. He's currently available in 28% of Yahoo leagues, which for 10-team formats should be enough to get him there. The other guy that we look at there in terms of big men, Richaun Holmes of the Sacramento Kings. Holmes, despite starting just 2 games this season and playing under 23 minutes a night, is currently ranked as a top 100 guy. I think that if he gets to 25 a night, he will comfortably be in that zone. He's available in a lot of 10-team formats, and he probably shouldn't be. Now, there is going to be inconsistency with Walton's rotations. I know a lot of people are concerned, what about when Bagley comes back? What happens with Holmes there? Well, I don't think the minutes really change because they're really adverse to playing Bagley at center. They should play Bagley at center. They should put the pencil Harrison Barnes at the 4, and they should put Bogdanovic at the 3. But I'm not Luke Walton. I'm also not off to a 1-5 start as the coach of my new team. That's what they should do. That isn't what they will do, it doesn't appear. So while Holmes might lose some touches, he's not thriving on a high usage rate or anything along those lines. His usage is under 18%. So Bagley coming back is not going to have a big impact there. He's not a big rebounder. He's a high efficiency, shot blocking type player. That's where Holmes' value comes from, and he should be rostered in 10-team leagues. Marcus Smart. Look, people really dislike Smart from a fantasy point of view, a lot of people, but he's still giving us 5 assists and 1.2 steals. Like, that is valuable for everybody. He hits 80% of his free throws, or he's hitting 80%. He did that last year. The field goal percentage is a concern, no doubt. But even taking that into consideration, he's still a guy that's so far this season hovering around the top 100. I've got him projected to be inside the top 100, that meaning he should be rostered in 10-team formats. So should Gaz Harris.
Nice, Gary!
Harris has looked more like the old Gaz Harris this season than what we saw last year. He's only averaging 13 points, but the steals are back. The efficiency's still not quite there, hitting 37% of his threes and only 47% of his twos, so there is significant room for that to improve. But I do believe Harris can be a top 100 player this season, and if I'm in a 10-team format, I would be looking to see if he would make sense on my roster. A guy that's just come back from injury, Dwight Powell of the Dallas Mavericks. It's only been 2 games. He's only played 19 minutes a game, so his rank so far is 294th. Not good, obviously, but we expect him to push up into the high 20s in minutes to get that efficiency up, to get those steals, to start hitting some threes, being a rebounder next to Kristaps Porzingis. And I think that he, available in over 40% of Yahoo leagues, is a 10-team league guy. Now, when I say these players are 10-team league guys, obviously, if they're players that should be added in 10-team formats, they should be added in 12s and 14s and 16s. That should go without saying. So any time that I give a league size recommendation for these players, anything deeper than that makes them an auto add as well. That should be pretty straightforward. Another guy who is available, according to my calculations on roster percentages, Rui Hachimura of the Wizards. Absolutely shitful on Saturday, but prior to that, he'd been putting up strong numbers. He isn't in the top 150 yet this season, and this, again, shows my limitations of what I look at him in terms of value as a long-term prospect. He's averaging 15 points, and that's great. 6 rebounds, pretty strong. He just doesn't do anything else. The efficiency suffered a big drop-off. He's shooting 23% on threes. I know a lot of people gave the old Dutch rudder to Rui because he does score, but he doesn't do anything else. I still think that he is a 10-team league guy. The minutes aren't going away. He's playing 31 a night so far. The usage is there. None of that stuff is changing for Hachimura as we move forward, and hopefully some of these other numbers improve a little bit. I don't have faith in him ever becoming a good player, but he is a 10-team league fantasy guy. The Jedi, OG Anunoby.
Hello there.
Anunoby is playing a lot of minutes this season. He looks completely different to where he was last year. And as a guy who's ranked 36th overall this season, he needs to be on a roster. That's because the block and steal numbers are through the roof. 1.7 steals, 1.5 blocks, 56% shooting. So there's some obviously elements of regression there. He's averaging a triple 1.5, 1.7 triples as well. 33% on his free throws is weird. 46 on his threes is likely to come down, but it's the minutes, it's the role, it's those defensive numbers which he flashed in college and then it didn't really click in the NBA. It's clicking now, so he does have a history of being able to do these things, and he should be a player who is rostered. And then you go to the 2 Miami Heat players, Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Herro. Nunn, of course, is a top 25 guy so far this year. We're expecting some regression because he's shooting 52%, including 48% from 3, and those peripheral numbers, they could all drop off. Now, he did have a high steal number in college, so that's something that has translated through, so that's encouraging, just that those lack of rebounds and assists, and if that efficiency drops and the value drops, but he shouldn't be available really in any 10-team format. Same with Tyler Herro, who's the 104th ranked player this season, 32 minutes a night. An impressive 6 rebounds a game. His other peripherals are a little bit low. The efficiency is not as high as I guess some people would have made out, given how he played in preseason, or I guess how the highlights showed that he played. But he's shooting 28% on threes, 42% from the field. So 45% from the field. I was reading the wrong numbers. Just try again. 36% from 3, 45% from the field. So that's okay. They're pretty strong numbers. 78 from the line. He is a better free throw shooter than that. He missed 6 free throws all of last season on about 95 attempts. So he will be better than that. Herro is a must roster player for your 10-team fantasy leagues. Let's look at a bunch of 12-team league guys. PJ Washington, he's sort of on the cusp of being a 10-team league, but he is a 12-teamer. Look, he's a top 50 player on the season. So in theory, that would say he is a must-roster 10-team league guy, and you could easily make that argument. I do think there is some regression potentially coming because he's hitting 61% of his 2s and 50% of his 3s, and I imagine those numbers will drop off. He's averaging just 1 assist a game and half a block. Now, I think the blocks can come up from Washington, but otherwise those other numbers are strong, and he's a definite 12-team ad, and he's available in quite a few leagues. The painter Matisse Thybulle, we know what he does. He's a 12-team league guy. He's 115th on the season, averaging 2.8 steals and 1.4 blocks. That's obviously ridiculous, and doing it while shooting 23% from the field. Now, that will have to come up at some point, averaging under 5 points a game. And if that came up to 7, 8 points a game, then he's looking at top 90, top 80 numbers pretty comfortably. So Thibault is a must-roster guy. The artist formerly known as Torian Prince had some ups and downs so far, but the last couple of games have been really strong. Most impressive from him, I think, has been the increase in his rebounding, which was anemic in Atlanta. 15 and 6. The poor free throws are concerning. The high 44% of threes could come down. So there is some elements to regress and progress in different areas for Prince, but he should be a 12-team league guy, even though I think his current level of production is probably a little bit unsustainable given his true shooting is sitting at 60%. I don't think that he is that efficient. Isiah Thomas, you could make an argument that Thomas is a 10-team league guy as well. He's been really, really good in limited minutes since coming back. A top 50 player so far, averaging 16 and 7 in 21 minutes. That's a 33% usage on a true shooting of 60, so there is some risk of regression. Most impressive is 7 assists in 21 minutes. Hard to see that assist rate keeping up. That's well above career numbers, but he's been really, really good. He looks healthy. The thing that I worry about him is where the upper limit is, because I don't think they're going to push him to 32 or 33 minutes. It's going to be like 26, 27. But he is a must-roster guy, and you could probably make the argument for 10-team leagues for him as well. Kevin Hooda is a 12-team league guy. It's been slow going for Hooda so far, just 20 minutes a game and 6 points, shooting only 26% from three, so you can obviously see where that can go up. He's been handling the ball, playing point guard, averaging over 3 assists per game in 20 minutes. To me, he's a 12-team league guy as well. Well, Thad Young has been playing games, of course, but he's been closing games over Lauri Markkanen. 132nd ranked player so far this season in only 23 minutes, 11 points with 4 boards and a steal, 47%, almost 2 threes. There is some value in Thad. He probably should be a 12-team league guy who can finish the year as a top 120 player, and that's what you're looking at when you consider guys close to must-roster 12-team league players. If we look at the next bunch of guys who are 14-team league guys, Maxie Kleber, who's been putting up, since Powell came back, his production seems to be improved. A top 115 guy so far. He blocks shots, 1.6 blocks, 1.2 threes, 8 boards. Efficiency can be a problem from the field. He's a good free throw shooter. Kleber's a guy that can be that 14-team league must roster. He's absolutely at home on a 12-team roster. Just doesn't mean that he's a must there, but he is a guy that you look at. And the same goes with Dario Saric, who's been putting up some decent enough numbers, fueled by 1.5 steals, but he is 116th ranked on the season. He's not out of place on a 12-teamer. He's a must-roster 14-teamer, but he could be a 12-team league guy, so just have a look. But he is available in enough leagues where in 14 teams he's going to be on the waiver wire in some of those formats. Same with the Duck, Luke Canard, who's been starting for the Pistons, averaging 16 points, a top 100 player so far this year. When Blake Griffin comes back, maybe that usage drops, but he's under 20% usage. He's averaging 4 assists. He's hitting 3 threes a game. It is really looking like the beginning of a bit of a breakout for the Duck, Luke Canard, and he is a definite 14-team league guy who probably has a spot in a 12-team format as well. Daniel House, another 14-team league must-roster guy. Unbelievable start to the season for Housey, averaging 12 and 5 with a block and almost a steal, 3 triples. He's shooting 47% from 3, so that's why I don't have him as a must-roster 12. He is absolutely like a short-term 12-team league guy that should be rostered in that scenario. But I don't see that level of shooting being able to stick, and then that'll cut off quite a bit of his value. But he's been putting up some strong numbers, as has Marcus Morris of the Knicks, who's a top 80 player so far, giving us 16 points per game and also providing us with decent defensive numbers. Now, he normally doesn't do that. He had a couple of games with some big bunches of steals and blocks. He's shooting under 38%, 84 from the line on a lot of attempts. I can see him losing some of this production. That's why I have him as a must-roster 14-team league guy, but he's again worthy of a 12-team spot there also. Same as Tomas Satoransky, who has been really, really low usage. We're aware of that. That 3-man White, Dunn, Satoransky guard rotation has limited his production. He's ranked 176th this season. I've got no problem with Satoransky in a 12-team format, but he's been dropped in enough leagues where he's available in 14-teamers. I would scoop him there. He's averaging 5 assists and a steal. And the thing with Satoransky is so much of his value was always baked into his elite efficiency. It's nowhere to be seen. He's shooting 27% on threes. He's at 46% true shooting, 31 from the field. When that ramps up, and legitimately his field goal percentage could rise by 20 percentage points, and then his value increases, and then often when guys hit their shots, they take them more, and he could really jump into the top 100. But for now, if he's sitting on a 14-team waiver wire, then he is a guy you look at. I do have Reggie Jackson listed down here as a 16-team league guy. I've just skipped a couple of those guys. Nerlens Noel and Rocket Rodney Hood are 16-team league must-adds. While Adams is out, Noel is an interesting 12-team league guy. And Hood is probably closer to a 14-team league guy at the moment, although he is dealing with a knee knock. Reggie Jackson's out for 4 weeks, but if you've got an IR spot, he's been dropped in shit tons of leagues. He's available right across the board. And when he is back, 25 minutes a night, that's valuable enough for a 16-team league. Same with Jay Crowder of the Grizzlies. He's available in a lot of leagues, so you can go look at him in a 16-teamer. Alec Burks of the Warriors as a 16-team league option as well. We've also got Jordan Poole, who is going to hit threes. He's going to be wildly inefficient and not do too much more than that, but the role looks like it's going to be there with Curry out for 3 months. In an 18-team league, Poole is a must-add, and he probably is even a short-term option in 14-team formats. And then going into more deeper league guys, Jabari Parker as an 18-team league guy. Look, he's putting up some really interesting scoring numbers. The Shark Bruce Brown maybe for 18-team leagues. Jordan Clarkson is an 18-team league guy. DeAndre Hunter, Norman Powell, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Tyus Jones. All of those guys should be around in 18-team formats, and they can provide value. And then for 20-teamers, Royce O'Neal and Malik Monk, I think, are pretty good options over there. More 20-team leagues, Glenn Robinson III, the Little Dog, Mo Harkless, the Chief, Al-Farouq Aminu.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Mario Hezonja. Now, Hezonja is an interesting one. This is long-term for the season. He's a 20-team must-add guy, but I'd be taking a flyer on him even in 12 and 14-team leagues with the news of Zach Collins and his shoulder surgery. So Hezonja's value jumps right up. Nemanja Bjelica, long-term, he's a 20-team league guy, but short-term, he's got value in smaller leagues. We've got JaMychal Green and Myers Leonard as 20-teamers. And I'd say Leonard even probably pushes up a little bit higher to, say, 16-team formats. And now, if we just look at guys in the short term and how their value changes, guys like Šarić with the absence of Ayton, Maxie Kleber with Dwight Powell's minutes restrictions, Bjelica with the absence of Marvin Bagley, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, Daniel House, Luke Canard, Bobby Portis, all of those guys I think push into close to must-roster 12-team league players. Now, I said before, if you're looking long-term, in every 14-team, you've got to grab Šarić and Kleber and Bjelica and Morris for those deeper formats. But now, all of those guys, Šarić, Kleber, Bjelica, Marcus Morris, Baines, House, Canard, Portis, they're all options. And you throw Mario Hezonja in there as well, given the situation in Portland. All of those guys become options to add for the short term. That'll do it for this short little show looking at waiver wire ads. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_Beeble. Subscribe to this podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and follow me on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.